That's what it means to really dream. I have a dream, oh, I have a dream. Red, white, and blue, fly free, fly free. I believe, oh, I believe. Will you dream with me?
Good morning, everyone out there. Welcome to Changing Times. It is Wednesday, November the 4th. First. Can you believe November 1st?
Yeah.
I mean, I can just remember just a few months ago, I thought it was the first of the year, and now all of a sudden we're almost end of the year. So November the 1st, we are glad that you're here. It is show number 135 that Don and I started, and so we're really glad to do that. We are live at the Axe Media Group headquarters in Springfield, Missouri, and we're seen in all 50 states and around the world, probably 12, 15, 16 countries today. So we welcome you, and I think we're going to have an interesting show. We're going to go ahead and get started right away. So the setup for today is we're going to be talking to a young lady that just won an award for understanding the Constitution and knowing the Constitution and how important it is, the U.S. Constitution. So we're going to start out with the Constitution, a little bit of talk about that. We're also going to talk about Veterans Day. It's coming up November 11th. And so very important things that we're going to be talking about today. So I hope you'll stay tuned to that, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I've got Dr. Mary Byrn, and she's been on our show several times.
It's always a pleasure.
One of the smartest ladies I know, and I tell you what. And then we have Teresa Drussa.
Drussa, yes.
Drussa, and you are a lady that's the president of the Conservative Americans Club.
Yes.
And then you do a lot of other things, and you're a veteran. I think maybe 22 years.
21 years.
21 years being a veteran, and so definitely we want to talk to you about Veterans Day today and what that means and things like that. So really a great show. And we've got Chantel. Chantel, are you hearing us now?
I am. Yes. Thank you for having me.
Right. Well, hey, thank you very much for being on our show. So,
and the connection is the award she won was from the Veterans Organization.
Yeah. So very good. And so you are a freshman at Washington University. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And where did you graduate from high school?
I graduated from Republic High School in Greene County.
Okay, very good. And so we'll get to this contest that you won, but I'm going to kind of lead up to that. So how did you get interested in the U.S. Constitution? What kind of coursework did you have in high school? Or did you do that on your own? Or I'm just curious, because a lot of high schools today, even though I still support public education, the reason why so many people homeschool or go to private schools is because that the public schools seem to not understand the importance of teaching the Constitution, teaching the real history of our country and the world. And then also they don't teach patriotism very well anymore. And so that's what I think about public schools. So how did you learn about the Constitution?
Yeah, my journey, it started a little earlier than high school. Both of my parents immigrated to the United States when I was really young. And ever since we'd moved here, they kind of stressed the importance of just knowing the law of the land that I live in and being able to appreciate the United States for just being like welcoming, for like taking us in and giving me like a better access to education than I would have had from either of the countries that my parents immigrated from. And so they really wanted me to be able to learn about like the history, the culture of America, the Constitution, just knowing how I could properly assimilate into this new culture and be an active member who participates in all of the discourse and just has enough knowledge to know why I live in America and why I should appreciate the fact that I live here. And so that was kind of planted in me at like a younger age. But then as I started going to high school, my civic teachers, they were especially insistent on the fact that we understand the Constitution. My history teacher specifically, he would stress sometimes wanting us to learn a little bit more beyond the curriculum, because I think the curriculum just wanted us to learn about just like the Bill of Rights and then a few other amendments here or there. But he wanted to go a little bit more in depth and told us how important it was to just know what the Constitution is, because it's the law that we live under, and it's the law that's going to be affecting us for the rest of our life. So we should want to know it.
I really appreciate that about your teacher, because when you love your subject area, you love to share it. And it's so inspiring for students like yourself to have a teacher who wants to share his love of the Constitution. That's a wonderful thing. So how did you find out about the contest?
I did a quick Google search. One day I was looking things up for that history class about like the Constitution. I think we were doing a project over the Fifth Amendment. And so I just looked it up. And so I think that keyword kind of triggered another search result. And on it, I saw that there was a prepared oration for the Constitution. And I'd been doing speech and debate for 5 years up to that point. And so when I saw that it was a speaking competition, I thought to myself, okay, it's a speaking competition in the Constitution, so it kind of merges two things that I like a lot. So I clicked on that link and I read through the details of it, and it was perfect just in time, because I remember that the cutoff date for the sign up was like nearing like the end of October or November, somewhere around that time, and it had just been like 1 or 2 weeks before that cutoff.
Oh, wonderful. Wow. And so you were able to fill out the form and enter the contest. And then what was the process? Where did you give your first speech, and how did you rise up to go to nationals?
The first speech that I gave, so after I filled out my initial application in late fall, I got an email in January. And the funny thing was that the initial email that I got sent by the district, like the person in charge at the district level, went to my spam inbox. And so the night before the competition, I got a call, and he was asking if I would still be able to compete the next day. And I was taken aback because I hadn't received an email in the last 3 months. But when I went to go check my spam folder, I realized that it had gotten lost in there. And so he asked if I'd be able to have one prepared speech ready, and then three or four like kind of improv speeches ready, but still familiarize myself with the amendments of the Constitution. And it was like about 6 or 7 o'clock at this point. And I just told him, I was like, I can be ready by tomorrow, no problem. So I ran up the stairs to tell my mom. I told her, I said, Mom, the competition is tomorrow. I need to write a speech now. And so I spent like the night kind of like writing a speech. My mom stayed up with me the whole night so that I could practice it in front of her. And so then when I got to the competition the next day, luckily it was in my hometown. It was in Republic. I got there, and I ended up being the only competitor because it starts at like the smaller, like kind of like district level, and then it moves up to the regional, and then the state and the national. And so just for like my local region, no one else had tried out, but they still gave me the opportunity to practice all of my speeches so that they can give me the feedback for the next level.
Okay. That was very helpful.
I tell you what, that's amazing. So Chantel, what organization is a veterans organization that actually put this contest on? Is that right?
Yeah, it was the Veterans of Foreign Wars.
Okay, Veterans of Foreign Wars. And I think, Teresa, you're a member of that, right?
I'm a member of the American Legion.
American Legion.
Legion Post 125.
And they were part of the group that put this event on.
Yes, our district commander, he put it on.
Well,
and I was a timer.
Right.
So because the speeches are timed.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, Chantel, I've got a few more questions that we do. Hey, but you're just an outstanding young lady. I mean, so you're an exception, I think, sometimes to the rule, unfortunately. So back to Republic High School, because I've got a lot of friends that live over in the Republic area, and some are involved in the school system. Was there other students? I'm just curious. I bet you were the best student in the citizenship class, but other students, were there other students like you? that understood the importance of the Constitution and what it really means. I mean, you said it a while ago. It's the law of the land. It's our fabric that holds our country together, and we're the only country that has had that type of document that has been that long, and we still have it today. And they're always trying to change or add amendments to it. I hope you're as suspicious as we are when they try to add new amendments to either a state constitution or the U.S. Constitution, because really it's a perfected piece. And I do know things change, time changes, but it's just such a great piece that describes and defines who we are in the United States. But did you have other school students that did that too?
In my grade, I'm sure there were, but I didn't necessarily know them. But in the grades above me, so people who had already graduated by the time that I was a senior, I definitely made friends with a lot of people who had like the same like fervency or passion for the Constitution or just for politics or for law. And so that was nice just to be able to hold conversations, sometimes with people who had different political views with you, but like with me. But it was nice just to be able to see their perspective of things, and then just being able to talk about like the Constitution without being judged as like a nerd or something, some weird clique or stereotype that only exists in high school.
Oh, wear it proudly. I call myself a geek all the time. Where was the regional contest and where was the nationals?
So the regional contest was in Jefferson City, but I actually didn't make it to national since I had gotten third place at the state competition. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go, but I still enjoyed my entire experience. And even going to state, I got to meet the three other competitors who had competed, because essentially the way that it works is that they split Missouri into 4 quadrants. And so the person who wins like the district level in each quadrant, or at the regional level in each quadrant, moves up to the state. So at the state competition every year, there will always be 4 people competing. And so there was a lot of some free time to talk to the other 3 competitors there. And it was really nice because all of them had a similar understanding to the Constitution. And we were able to kind of talk about what led us up to this point, why we chose the direction to write our topics on, or even with the improvisational speeches, I got to figure out
Mhm.
why they decided to take a single speech to a certain direction. Because at the end of the day, we were just given one of the amendments and then given free reign to talk about them in any way that we wanted to. And we all took it in different directions. So it was just kind of nice to see their thought process behind why they chose what they talked about.
Sure, it's always fun to have colleagues you can talk to because you're a subset of of the larger student population, and not everybody shares that interest. So it's fun when you get together with people who do share it. That's
Well,
wonderful.
Chantel, let me ask you another question. It's not necessarily about your study and what you accomplished knowing the Constitution and believing in the Constitution, but right now with the Middle East war going on, I'm just curious. I see on the news all the time that, especially the big Ivy League schools and things like that, and even other schools around the country, we've got all these protests going on, and they seem to be getting a little bit louder, a little bit more hateful towards Israel and some of the things that's going on. Do you see because Washington U is one of the best schools, not only in the state but in the country, and they're known for law school, medical school, things like that. So are you beginning to see some of that on your campus in St. Louis?
Fortunately enough, we haven't seen the campus get as violent. I was reading the news, and I was actually in Boston this past weekend, and I kind of saw different flyers and advertisement across Harvard Yard. And I know that they've had problems with doxings and just a lot of problems on the national news media outlets. And then I know Cornell has had a lot of issues with protesters getting into like, altercations with some of the faculty and staff. But here at WashU, I can speak to the fact that we have had protests for both sides. Um, they haven't gotten violent, thankfully. There haven't been very many altercations, but there definitely has been a sort of tension because there is not a lot of room for constructive discourse, which is unfortunate because sometimes people just want to have a conversation without it turning into a full-fledged argument. And I think one of the biggest things that people forget is that we're across the seas. And so even though we can like talk about it freely, like we still have to be fortunate and be thankful for the fact that we're not over there, like experiencing that physically. So I think that that's something that a lot of people take for granted, that we have the opportunity to sit around a table and have a discussion without the violence in our background and without like our family members passing away or being killed. And so I don't see the reason for this polarization. I think that people need to have solid conversations, like no matter who you support. The conversations need to be had because a lot of fake news is also going around right now. And so people are kind of just regurgitating random headlines that they saw on social media. And it's been kind of hard from like my perspective, just hearing these things. And I don't want to instigate. And so I never really want to get myself involved unless someone is speaking directly to me. But just seeing all of the false information flying around has been kind of hard, or just having to like censor yourself just a little bit just to keep the peace, because at the end of the day, what's going on over there isn't going to be affected by an argument that I have with my peers over here. So if it's not going to be constructive, I don't see the point in entertaining that.
So, Chantel, you're going to be the speaker at the Conservative Americans Club Thanksgiving dinner. And
Yes,
Teresa arranged it for us. We're looking forward to
yes,
having
Miss
you,
Teresa told me.
and hope that you'll share with us the speech that you used when you entered the contest. That would be a wonderful thing.
I would love to do that. And I was so grateful when Miss Teresa reached out to me. That's an exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll be there too. Janet and my wife will be there. A lot of really good people will be there that night. And Alec and Jenny Wade, the host for that night, have a beautiful, beautiful place. So we'll have a great time. Lots of great food and fellowship. So that will be good. Just one last question. I know we need to move on, but I just want to make a comment that what were you doing in Boston last weekend?
I had a mock trial
related?
tournament. Yes, it
Oh,
was
good.
college related. I joined the WashU mock trial team, and so we get to travel a lot. And this past weekend, we were able to go up to Boston and just compete with some of the other schools in the Northeast region.
Well, that's awesome. You're going to make a great attorney someday. Need to think about U.S. Congress or even higher, because I think you're the type of person that could do that. I ask about Boston because I'm a Boston Celtics fan. You may not know anything about the NBA basketball, but Jan and I actually go to Boston 2 or 3 times a year to watch games. They had a game at the Boston Garden Sunday, and they won. And so I'm just keeping track of the Bostons. Boston's a great city to visit. So we like to visit up there. It's not necessarily where I want to live because I live in a small town area, but it's a great place. So I'm glad you got to experience that. So, hey, we really appreciate you being on today and taking your time to call in, and we're going to see you then down there at the Thanksgiving. What day is that?
November 25th.
November 25th. So we'll see you, young lady, then. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you very much. I tell you what, I'm impressed. So I would vote for you for whatever you want to do. Okay. And Teresa, thanks for
you.
getting us involved with her. What a great young lady.
Yes, she
So
is.
very, very good. Well, I tell you what, let's go on, and then we'll take a break and talk about our sponsors. And when we take a break, you might want to take a pencil and paper and write this down. There's some interesting things that we'll tell about our sponsors. But so, Teresa, you were a veteran of 21 years.
Yes, that's right.
And what branch?
Army.
Army. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do in the Army?
Well, I was a human intelligence collector.
Oh.
And with that job, you have to have a language and a clearance. Now, going in, you have to have a secret clearance, but then later on, they may give you or put you in a job that requires a top secret.
Hmm.
So you can't, in your young life, you can't be in a lot of trouble.
Right. I get you. So what was your second language besides English then?
Well, okay, because I was pre-Cold War and post-Cold War.
Uh-huh.
I first learned German
German,
and then Polish.
Polish. Okay.
And then after the Cold War, they said we don't need those languages anymore. So
Okay.
you either learn another language or, get out of the military. So I chose Indonesian.
Indonesian.
Yes.
Wow.
So, and I got to work at the embassy for a while.
Uh-huh.
And that was really, really interesting. I worked for the Air Force attaché. And
Well, that's really so a powerful job for a woman back then. Very
Yes.
powerful. And Jim Whining, our CEO of Acts Ministry, he has German ancestry and used to live in Germany. And so that's interesting. And the Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Miami Dolphins this Sunday in Germany. So you could actually go over there with them and help them understand what they're saying.
yeah,
That would be interesting too.
yes.
Well, and I bet you that Chantel is studying more than one language too. I would always tell these young people today. I know I studied Spanish and was actually pretty good at Spanish for a while and could go over to Mexico when I first got out of college and kind of be able to interact a little bit. Kind of lost it over time. But honestly, young people today, if you're a parent or a grandparent watching today, you make sure that you get your kids in school and learn at least 2 languages. I'd say 3, as many languages as you can, because this is an international world anymore. Everything's being connected, and the more different languages you can communicate with, the higher type of job you're going to get. I just think it's a great thing to know more than one language.
And it's easier to learn a foreign language when you're young.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I've kind of. So, how did you learn? Did you take a course in those, or did they have?
The military sent me to Defense Language Institute
Wow.
in Monterey, California for German and Polish.
Okay.
And then I went to DC for Indonesian and then a short Serbo-Croatian course.
Okay. Was there ever any women in the military when you were serving?
Yes.
There was. See, I think that's one of the things I was studying when I was studying Veterans Day last day or two. I just kind of looking up some stuff. There's some type of program trying to start to just have an honoring day of women on Veterans Day. There's something they're going to call that if they could get that going. I think I'm glad you said that, because I thought that was right. A lot of people don't realize how many women served in the military. And they did all kinds of jobs. And today, I think there's more women serving in the military than people realize. And even Don Blackard, the Mary setting where Don Blackard, my co-host, that we started this show together over 2 years ago, she joined the Army Reserve here in Springfield, Missouri after 9/11. 2 days after 9/11, when we all saw it somewhere. She was at OTC and they saw it on this TV monitor in the classroom, and the second plane hit. First plane had already hit. That's when, we had a rise in patriotism.
Yes.
And we had it for a while. Lots of houses had flags. My 26 pharmacies always had an American flag every day of the week, Monday through Saturday. We took it down Saturday when we left and put it back up Monday morning because we were closed on Sundays. But there was a big rise in patriotism, and people were proud to be American and was upset at what they did to us in New York. And then it's kind of died away.
It has.
It's kind of died away, and that's sad. But I think a lot of it, again, I even though I'm a strong supporter of the public school system, because not everybody can go to private school, and not everybody can go homeschool and things like that. So public schools are still essential. They're not teaching patriotism.
And the point is that is their purpose. The purpose of public schools is to preserve the republic.
Yeah.
So the whole point of your tax dollars going to support public education was to teach students how to govern themselves and to participate in government. It was not workforce development. The education got hijacked by corporatism, and Rockefeller and Carnegie were the main drivers of that in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And that the hijacking continues to this day. But the founders envisioned it as a way to, just like Chantel, when people immigrated to this country, that was how they would learn our nation's laws and learn to appreciate the the values of the Americans who fought for this. And so that was the entire point. But through the infiltration of socialists from England, and John Dewey was a big part of that, the universities began modifying education from the transmission of that information to social reconstruction. And that's what we're seeing today. But it's on steroids now. Social reconstruction is not just reconstruction of the country. Now they want to reconstruct the individual. And that's all by design. So sooner or later, we've got to wake up and say, no, what's going on in the schools is being orchestrated by an elite group who wants to see the demise of America. So it's
Well, you're right, Mary. And you and I you've been on our show. We've talked, we've known each other for a long time. I think this is such a, over 100 years, just a slow progression. Yep. It reminds me of what I learned in school when I was studying all my science courses to get into pharmacy school. It reminds me of what I also taught my kids and my grandkids. And I knew it wouldn't kill the frogs, so don't get on to us for doing something harmful to an animal. But I put that big old frog in a pot of water, and then I turned the stove up, and I just it was cold water to begin with, and I just slowly turned that heat up. And you know what? That frog will not boil itself. It won't die, because once it gets to a certain temperature, it jumps out. It jumps out onto the counter of the kitchen. And I did it in school, and then I showed my kids and I showed my grandkids, and that's exactly what's happening to our country. Yeah. Wake up, open your eyes, open your ears, open your mouth, and pay attention, because slowly, they have just indoctrinated our schools. And we were talking about that before the show started. It started out mostly in the big Ivy League schools. Yes. And then it kind of went to the other universities and colleges. Yep. And then it went to high school. Then it went down to junior high school. Because those universities were teaching the teachers who went into the high schools. And that's where it spread, the indoctrination. Now there's preschool, little tiny kids. Mm-hmm. I gave a Halloween candy out at school yesterday. And my gosh, little tiny kids. I wasn't able to talk to them. They were just going and getting their candy and going on. But I'm thinking, oh, I bet they've been indoctrinated too. Well, there's very little to recommend, believe it or not. I'm going to get in trouble with some people about this, but there's very little to recommend government-sponsored preschools, except for children who come in with English as a second language and children with disabilities. Normally developing children, as a matter of fact, what national studies, look at Head Start. We've got 50 years of data on Head Start. And our country is not better off for that. There was a state of Tennessee that had a state-sponsored preschool statewide. And what they found is that it increased children's negative behaviors, because it was entirely too much structure for these little kids. And as they progressed into elementary school, there were negative effects, because they were just really exhausted from this downward push of academics into what should be a time of exploration and creativity. So the truth of the matter is,
It's a Marxist idea for the government to raise your children. It's a
Yeah.
Marxist idea to abolish the family. And they're doing it very well, and they're using your tax dollars to get it done.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a break and then we'll be right back. So I just want to talk about two sponsors. I think in January we got two more sponsors coming on. So hopefully we'll be at four. But Brad Pistow was our first sponsor on this show. He also was my sponsor on my radio program for 7.5 years too. So I've known Brad Pistow a very long time. He is the president of Trinity Insurance and Financial Services, right located in Ozark, Missouri. So the funny thing about that was Jan and I were in Florida at our condo, and we were about the age that we were selling our business, selling our stores, and we had to take our 401k out. The company was buying us, said we couldn't be in their plan. And so they took over our plan. So we had to get out, make a decision. And so we were at Denny's in Florida in the Kissimmee area, and I read the USA Today, and on the Money's page, there was an editorial about retirement planning. And this guy was so smart. He was so smart. And I said to Janet, I said, I wish there was a guy like that in our area, because that's where we could put our money. I know this guy would not lose our money and would make us money. And so his name was Brad. I thought Pistol, but his name is Brad Pistow. Okay. And he is a certified fiduciary financial planner located right in Ozark, Missouri. The phone number, while you need a paper and pencil, is 417-581-9222. 417-581-9222. If you call, Lisa or Hunter will answer the phone. They'll send you a free book, either Safe Money Matters, which is his first book, best-selling #1 book on retirement planning on Amazon, and then his book that he wrote last year, which was Bulletproof. That's even a better book and more expansive about retirement planning, and it's also a best-selling book on Amazon. You'll get those books free, and you can get free information from Brad Pistow. He's licensed only in 3 states, and we got people in 47 other states, but he knows people all over the country because he goes around and speaks around the country, and he has associates that he knows and believes in, and they do the same thing. So we've been using now Brad for about 5 years, and I've never lost a penny when the stock market goes down. Never. I don't have to worry. I don't pay attention to the stock market going in and down because I don't have a lot of stock anymore. I still have some, not like I used to, and I don't have to worry about it. And I'm still making money every year. And he has plans where you'll never run out of money before you run out of life. Okay. So there are good things about Brad Pistow. Okay. Number 2, our sponsor is John Whittaker. It was John Youngblood and John Whittaker. They were partners for many, many years. They've been in business 45 years, family owned, 45 years in Springfield, Southwest Missouri area. Now it is not called Youngblood Motor. It's called Springfield Nissan Kia. Springfield Kia. John Whittaker. He is the owner now, and they're still on South Campbell, 3525 South Campbell. Across the street is all their used cars, and they have not just used cars, because there's a lot of used car lots, but they actually have certified cars, a lot of certified cars. If I was going to buy a used car, and they're so much less expensive than a new car, I would buy a certified car. You're going to pay a little bit more, but they've certified over 110 points of inspection, and you're going to drive down that road and not have near as much trouble, and it won't be something that you're going to be taken back to the car dealership every other month, because they've certified and made sure that car will last you. So Youngblood Motor now is Springfield Nissan Kia. John Whittaker, give them a call. Their phone number is 417-882-3838, 417-882-3838. And there'll be a lady named Susan that every company needs a Susan, because that lady is the best in customer service that I've ever talked to. And I think it's extremely important that first person you make contact with when you're calling somebody, that's Susan, and she is absolutely the best. I told John Whittaker, if I had a place to put her, I'd be trying to hire her away because I just extremely impressed. I call them all the time for different things. I bought my last 2 Grand Cherokee Jeeps from them. I'm going to buy my next car from them too. Excel in service, excel in just everything that they do. So that's our 2 sponsors, and we're going to get right back. So, Teresa, where did you travel? I mean, I bet you lived in 21 years. How many places did you live? Countries and places did you live?
Well, I was in Munich, Germany for a combined total of 8 years.
Okay.
And the rest of the time I was in Fort Hood, which is now Fort Cavazos. And then I spent 5 years in language school. So 5
years.
of my 21 years
Wow.
was in language school.
Wow. Is it really hard? I mean, though, you're smart. You learn those languages. How many people, is there people that can't learn the language that they need to learn to?
I think anybody can learn one if you work at it. I had to work at it.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't do well in, junior high Spanish. But what they do is in my job specialty, you had to have a language. If you didn't have a language, you would have to reclass into a different job.
Mm.
So that's the job I wanted.
Right.
I have German ancestors, so I always wanted to learn German and go to
Right.
Germany. And my dream came true.
Right. And you enlisted.
I enlisted.
And was there any reason that made you enlist, or what made you, as a young lady, decide you wanted to be in the military?
Well, Jimmy Carter was president.
Okay.
There weren't any really good jobs in Springfield, and the economy was bad. I just wasn't happy, and I had an uncle who had been in the military, and he said he wished he'd never gotten out. I had a pastor who had been in the reserves, and he said he had never gotten out. The pediatrician of my children, he had been in the military and said he wished he'd never gotten out. So I thought, I thought I would try it.
Well, I think it's amazing because your generation, our generation, my gosh, there were so many brave men and women that joined the military during the war and not during the war, and today, a lot of the young kids don't even want to, you're still required to sign up at, 18 or 20? What is it?
To register.
To register, yeah.
Register for the draft.
Yeah, but a lot of
18.
people don't. How old is it?
18.
18. So they're just getting out of high school. Mm-hmm. But I've heard young people don't even want to do that. But if you don't do that, there's some pretty good penalties that you could be assessed that's going to affect your life for the rest of your life if you don't sign up at 18
That's right.
to what do you call it, Mary?
Register.
Because that's what the government needs to know. They need to know how many able-bodied people that we actually have at any given time, in case if there is a war. I'm hoping that right now we're near a point where we could have a war tomorrow, tomorrow. But we're praying and hoping that things will calm down and we won't have it. I don't know if you saw that today, but the FBI director today made news by telling Congress yesterday that we're at the highest level of watching what's going on, because they're suspecting that we're going to have some internal things happen to our country inside the United States. And, you heard Chantel talking about a while ago that, people feeling safe in this country. But honestly, I don't think we're safe in this country. We could be attacked internally, even with all the 9 million immigrants that we've had come in the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years under President Biden. We have a lot of people that could be all over this country that could actually be orchestrated together to start little pockets of
Which makes
war.
your Second Amendment rights very important.
Yeah.
Do you
Yes.
mind if we learn more about the
Sure.
contest?
Yeah, let's learn about the contest.
Can you
Tell us about it.
tell the
Yes.
audience about the next deadline and what any students can do to register?
Okay. Yeah. So the American Legion, Department of Missouri, each year sponsors an oratorical contest for high school students in Missouri. The program was started in Missouri 40 years ago. And the purpose of the contest is to develop knowledge and appreciation of the United States Constitution, the ability to think and speak clearly and critically, and the acceptance of duties, responsibilities, rights, and privileges of American citizenship. The contest meets guidelines of the Missouri State High School Activities Association and appears in the advisory list of contests and activities of the National Association of Secondary School Principals. Students in high school grades 9 through 12 interested in participating need to go to this website. It's www.missourilegion.org/oratorical.
So Missouri Legion does not have a dot between it. It's also like one word.
No,
Okay.
MissouriLegion.org/oratorical. And when you go to that page, everything you need to know will come up. And right in the middle of the page, there's a big red box. And you click on that box to fill out the form. And then you have to print the form off and have a teacher, a coach, assistant principal sign off on your paperwork and send it in. And then you'll get an email back, and apparently you really need to check your spam to make sure it doesn't go in there. The deadline is 30 November 2023. Now, that sounds like a short time. It is a short time, but it only takes 5 minutes to fill out this form.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you need to do.
So the end of this month.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and there's a lot of smart people just like Chantel that could apply for this, and so I'm glad you brought that up, and we'll try to get that posted and things that I do too. We'll try to talk about that. So thank you for being here today. You're a difference maker. You're a difference maker. You're being the change. That's powerful. So we'll be back next Wednesday, and just come back next Wednesday and watch our show. We thank the veterans for everything they've done. Every time you see a hat with a veteran, a guy with a veteran or a lady with a veteran, be sure and thank them. 365 days a year, not just Veterans Day. Thank you, guys.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.